So now I'm going to go over the same steps I went in the last one about how to get an image over onto your website, but we're going to talk about how to resize it directly in Dreamweaver. So here I'm continuing on my search for images of cookies, and I'm going to take this image, which would be, I want to resize it. Let's see it at its original size. Yeah, that's a little bit bigger than I want for my particular web page, but I'm going to do that in Dreamweaver. I'm going to go to Save Image As this time, and I need to browse. I'm already there, but I need to browse for that cookies folder, my root folder, and I've created another folder to be organized inside. I've called it Images, and I'm going to save it there. And notice no other images are showing here, but I know that they're there, and that's because this is a PNG image, and that's okay. I just don't have any other PNGs there. If this was a JPEG, then I'd see the rest of my images. So I'm going to save this, and now I'm done. I'll go back over to Dreamweaver, and I will refresh, and now I have this page here as well. So let's talk about, first of all, just simply how to add an image to a web page. So I'm going to take any one of these images. I guess I'll work with this one that's a little too large, and all I have to do is click and drag it out. So you have to have the Files panel open. In some of my earlier videos, I had the CSS Designer panel open, so make sure you have the Files panel open. And I've opened up my folder that had images, so here's another, just something to pay attention to if you can't get into your folders. Maybe they're just closed. Open them up, and then once you see your images, just click and drag them onto the web page. And for a moment, let's just work only in design view and not in the split view. So that's really as simple as it is to be able to get an image onto a web page. So notice now that I have my image on the web page, it is selected, and I can tell because it has the anchor points. If I click outside, just on the white area, it's no longer selected. So let's look in the Properties Inspector down here, and you can see what kind of fields I have. But now as soon as I click on the image, my fields change here. So this Property Inspector is a contextual toolbar. It changes based on what you have selected. So if I want to edit this image, I need to make sure I'm selected on the image. Let's go over to one of the sites, one of the pages I have already set up for, as an example, for your homework assignment of something that you can do. And I'll take this image. Well, actually, I don't need to take the image out. Let's just look to see where that image is located. So one of the notes that I made about your homework assignment is, since we don't know yet how to really control the positioning of images, I'd like you to just put your image down directly onto its own line. So don't put it, in other words, in between text. Let's just do an example. And just try to click and drag it. Why are we not going over here? And if I'm on some view. Why are you refusing to move? Okay, so I just had a little snafu, and all I did, my images were refusing to move onto the page, and all I did was close my pages, close a couple pages, and save things. So I've been working, I have like 20 different programs open, and each program has like 50 pages, so maybe I just kind of like was asking a little bit too much for my computer. So if that sort of thing happens to you, where you get that cancel sign and you can't move an image over, just try closing, saving, and opening things up again. Okay, so what I was saying was that I want you to put your images on their own line versus directly in the same paragraph as your text. So for example, if I put this right here at the beginning of my text, it doesn't look very nice, and you can see how my text follows right afterwards. Let's look at the code of what we have right here. So when I add an image, the tag, the HTML tag is IMG, and this is an open tag, meaning it doesn't have a closing. So unlike paragraph that has the closing P tag, or list item that has a closing LI, or the unordered list item that has the closing UL, I don't have a closing IMG. It all gets wrapped in the same IMG. Right after IMG, I have an SRC, which stands for source, and that gives me the exact address of where that image is. And in my case, it's found in the images folder, and it's looking for this image, and it tells me the width and the height. Then it's going to give me the alternative tag, which I'll explain in a minute. So if I've put this in directly after the opening of my paragraph, and then the text follows after, switch back over, that's what it's going to look like. And that doesn't really look that great right now. So just in the code view, I'm just going to move my paragraph so it starts after the image. And now let's go back over to the design view, and now I can see that the result is that my image is on top of my paragraph. And so that's going to look a little bit nicer for the setup that for what we have right now and what we know how to do with CSS. So just continuing on back to that page. Let's see, I had a page set up. Maybe I got rid of it where I was just going to add an image. I'll just create a new one for the sake of practice. And I wanted to take this image and drag it out and show you how to resize an image in Dreamweaver. So it's selected, that's important to notice, and I have 3 anchor points. I'm going to grab one of my anchor points and holding the shift key down so that I can lock the proportion. If I don't hold the shift key down, I'm going to let go of it. I'm going to end up distorting my image and it's not going to look good. So if I hold the shift key down, I can make it smaller and I'm locking the proportions. And I can make it to whatever size I want. Now, this is a smaller image. If I look at it, its width is 374 pixels, but its image size is still kind of large. It's 268 kilobytes, and that doesn't seem right. If I undo this, my original image was 268 kilobytes. Well, the reason is because all Dreamweaver is making it physically smaller, but it didn't do that resampling process where it throws away unneeded pixels to make the file size smaller. So if I'm going to have Dreamweaver resize my image, the next step is I have to have it resample it. And there's a little icon right down here. I'm going to click on it and it's going to give me a warning message saying, hey, I'm actually permanently doing this to your image. So if you need to have a larger version of this image somewhere else, save another copy of it because it's now permanently small. If I take that image and I drag it out again, or I put it onto another web page, we can see that that image is now a smaller image. If I wanted to move this down a line, I'm just going to hit my Enter key and let that go into a different line. Okay, so let's just talk about that alternative text that was inside our image, and I also have a title field. We'll talk about them in the Properties Inspector, and then I'll talk about them in the text. So when I dragged an image over and I'm clicking in my Properties Inspector, I have these 2 tags. The alternative tags is for people who are visually impaired, and so they're using a screen reader. So instead of seeing all the information, they're having a screen reader describe to them everything that's here. This is especially important if you're using images for any of your navigation. If this button was my home, if this image was my home button, it would be very important that my alternative text said home, so that a screen reader would be able to tell the person that this is the home button. But in this case, it is more a descriptive or an illustrative type of image. So I could just put picture of yummy cookie. So the title tag is a tag that we're going to be using once about a little bit after the midterm, and we're going to use that for styling and making things more dynamic on our page. So it's a really good tag to start getting used to doing. And the title tag is going to appear in the browser like a tooltip helper. It's going to actually pop up and the person's going to be able to see the text that's in the title tag. The alternative text you're not going to see unless you're using a really old browser. So in the title tag, I'm going to write, this is a yummy cookie, try to make it. Okay. And I assign that title tag to this image. If I click over onto this one over here, I'd see that my alternative text and my title tag fields are empty. Before we view this in the browser, let's just look at how this was put in to our code. I'll go into the code view. It's already highlighted because it was highlighted in design view. This is my image. It's wrapped in that image tag. This is my first one. So I see it says the source, the address, then under the alternative or after alternative, it has within quotes picture of yummy cookie. It has my width and my height. Then my title tag, this is a yummy cookie. So that's all the stuff I just put in right here. But it's also very easy to add it in the code view. So I'll do it for the second image because I didn't do it through the Properties Inspector. So for the alternative text, for this one I'll put this is another picture. And now I'm going to move outside the quote and I'll add the title tag. And Dreamweaver gives me the code helper. So title, and it puts the quotes there for me. This is another picture. Okay, let's save this and preview it in the browser and see if this is working. When I put my mouse over, I get the little title tag, And over here, I get this one. It says, this is another picture. So that is the result of the title tag. So the alt tag, which stands for alternative text, is what a visually impaired person gets when they use a screen reader. Also, people who simply choose to view the internet, view the web without images. So people who are still using dial-up, for example, might have that option. They'll get text instead of an image. So it's also really important to add to your page. Okay, so that's everything for this video, and make sure to go through the chapter in the HTML and CSS book on images, and it's going to really supplement the material I talked about here.